How to build a $20 million e-commerce brand in 10 steps. In this video, I'm going to walk through every step on how to build an 8-figure business, leveraging the power of TikTok Shop, Amazon, Shopify, and AI, and using my skills to product system, which I'm sharing with you right now here for free. I'm giving you all the details, all the sauce, and there's no reason why, if you don't follow the steps in this video, that you set yourself up for life. You build an insane amount of wealth, enterprise value with your business, and potentially even sell the business for just an insane amount of money, like I've done multiple times. And that's given me the financial freedom that I always dreamed of. So let's get started. Now, why is e-commerce the best path to wealth for most people? Well, the number one thing is there's a low barrier to entry, right? Now, a lot of times in business, that can be something that's not good if there's a low barrier to entry. Now, that means that a lot of people can do it easily and that kind of thing. In this case with e-commerce, why I don't think that's a problem is because to get started, there's a low barrier to entry. When it comes to scaling a business and building a real brand, that's a different story. That takes skills, that takes time, that takes certain knowledge that I'm showing people how, and that usually takes many years to learn how to do that. And so why it's important now is because anyone can do this, all right? When I got started, I wasn't special. You know, I'd never built an e-commerce business before. I'd never been an entrepreneur before, really. But I was able to build huge businesses and ultimately sell them for life-changing amounts of money. And so why e-commerce is the path to wealth? Well, it's because it's a low barrier to entry. It's not technical, right? You don't need to know how to code anything. You don't need any software skills. You don't need engineering skills. And we're at a unique time where huge scale is possible with little effort. When you combine AI with TikTok, with Amazon, you get this incredible multiplier that I've never seen before in my career, quite frankly. And that's why I think this is the golden era for e-commerce, actually, right? We are in the greatest time to build a business like this. And I want you to capitalize off of it because it's not going to last forever. Okay. Just like everything else, things change, right? Things mature, markets get different. This is the time. You're early to TikTok Shop, right? You're early to a lot of this stuff. And if you play your cards right and you work hard and use the tools and tips and skills that I'm showing you, you're going to be able to build a life-changing brand that, like I said, sets you up for life, right? You're going to be having insane amounts of freedom. You're going to have, tons of money. You're not going to know what to do with it all. And then that's a whole different problem that we'll get to in another video, possibly. But regardless, e-commerce is the best path to wealth for most people. Now, when I say e-commerce, I want to be clear here. I am not talking about drop shipping. Okay, drop shipping is technically an e-commerce type of business, but it's not brand building. And I want to just kind of deter you away from drop shipping, not because it's a bad business per se. It can be good and it can generate lots of cash flow, and it's nice, and then it typically doesn't require a lot of upfront capital. However, it's hard to sell a drop shipping business. All right, it's hard to build that kind of business that someone wants to buy. And we're here to build brands. All right, we're here to build real brands. We're here to build lifetime customers, passionate customers, cult-like followings for our brands. That's what we want, right? And it's hard to do that with drop shipping. And when you look at other kind of businesses or whatever models that are popular nowadays, like SMMA, right? Social media marketing agencies, crypto, copywriting. Listen, that stuff is saturated. It's not that lucrative. When you're talking about social media marketing agencies, it's like 1 million people are doing that, and you're running an agency. I built one of the largest agencies in the world when it comes to Amazon, and I could just tell you, it sucks. All right, you got to deal with clients. You got to always answer them. It's hard to scale it. You're selling your time a lot of times, and that's really difficult. And that's what SMMA is. So I would try, say that's potential opportunity, but I just wouldn't focus on that personally. Crypto is one of those things where, unless you really know what you're doing, which you don't, 99.9% of people don't, you're going to lose a ton of money in crypto. Do I own crypto? Yeah, of course. I'm an investor in a crypto hedge fund, and I've made a lot of money in crypto. I've also lost a lot of money in crypto, but overall it's been good to me. But that's because I've paid professionals to do the work for me. I'm not trading anything, because if I did, I would fail. I'm not that good at this. You got to be like an expert. There's like very few people in the world who, understand financial markets, who know how to trade crypto. And I would just say, like, you're not going to be, making tons of money on crypto unless you get super lucky. And even then, whatever, it's not really a skill that you can transfer to something else. So I'd stay away from that. Other things like copywriting, that kind of stuff. And look, these are good businesses, but again, you have the problem with scale, right? You're selling your time off, and copywriting is also something that like is dominated by the top 1% of people. The best copywriters in the world make a ton of money, but you're competing with them, okay? And I just think it's a difficult business, and it doesn't have the same level of scale. So that's what I'm saying. E-commerce is the golden path to success for right now. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to build a business, build an e-commerce brand. It's really, really just an amazing business model. It's been great for me in my life. It's been life-changing for me, honestly. And I want other people to feel that. I want other people to have that success. What else? Well, it's growing. Like, look at this. I mean, you look at Shopify's report here on the global e-commerce sales. We're going to be pushing on $8 trillion in sales by 2028, and it's only going to go up, right? So people are shopping way more online. They're just more comfortable with it, and it's just growing. And so the opportunity is infinite, in my opinion, to not only learn a skill that you can use to repeat some of this stuff over and over again, but to build real brands. And I want to show you just an example here of what is possible with TikTok Shop and Amazon. All right. So Nello, this brand started like a year and a half ago. It's, from what I understand, two guys started this business. They're younger guys in their 20s. And I want you to look here at some of the numbers. All right. The thing that really stands out to me, and the thing that's absolutely crazy here, is the numbers. I mean, look at this. Their 30-day revenue on Amazon is $3.2 million. All right. Every month they're doing $3 million in sales just on Amazon. That doesn't include TikTok Shop, which is another $2-3 million a month. All right. So this brand, Nello, which started a year and a half ago, they are a $100 million business. I mean, they're going to be able to exit this business for hundreds of millions of dollars if they continue to scale it. And this is just one product, by the way. One product does this much, all right? The thing that's really interesting to me and what stands out to me the most is the number of reviews. It's not that many reviews, right? I see this because I know Amazon like the back of my hand. I've been doing it for so long. When I see something like this, 2,000 reviews on a product that's doing $3 million in revenue a month, it's very unusual. Why is that? Well, it's because of the halo effect from TikTok Shop. They leveraged TikTok Shop and the affiliate program and the halo effect to drive a ton of traffic to Amazon, and they're getting all that organic sales, and it's just an insane scale flywheel. And that's what I'm showing you how to do here with Skills to Products, is how to leverage TikTok Shop and the affiliates to not only get a lot of revenue on TikTok Shop, but ultimately to drive a bunch of traffic to Amazon so that you get these kind of sales on Amazon without spending a lot on PPC ads and without having to do a bunch of giveaways. Because really the margin is going to be on here for the most part. Now, I won't get into the details of unit economics just yet. That'll be later on in the video. But I just want you to understand that fundamental thing and why that's so unusual and just so amazing when you really think about it, right? In a year and a half, they've built a $100 million plus business in revenue. I mean, that's unheard of, right? That's just crazy. And that's because of TikTok Shop. Now, what e-commerce isn't? E-commerce is not a shortcut to wealth. It's not get rich quick. It's not a fast cash fix. When I talk to people and they say, oh, I need to make, $5,000 a month right away, $10,000 a month right away. I'm not going to say that you can't do that, but I'm just going to tell you that typically when you build a brand, cash flow is tight, right? Because you have to invest to scale the business. You have to acquire more inventory. You have to, pay for more marketing. You have to hire people, that kind of stuff. So when you're scaling a business, usually the cash flow is tight and profits often go down, right? And so that's not a bad thing per se, right? It just means that you're in the growth phase of your business. But I just want to tell you, yes, there are 100% ways to make cash flow in e-commerce, especially if you use like TikTok Shop Affiliate and you get really good at that. You can, bring in 10, 20, 50, $100,000 a month in cash flow. And plus, you're learning how to perfect, this skill of making viral videos and making viral content, which is going to benefit your brand when you go to launch your products and you go to scale your business. You're going to already know how to do a lot of that stuff. So, you can make a lot of cash flow in some of these kind of ancillary businesses, right? So, like TikTok Shop Affiliate, right? You can also, do some consulting work in e-commerce if you kind of know what you're doing. If you understand, how to make content and that kind of stuff, like these are ways to get cash flow, but I want you to use that cash flow to fuel your products business, to fuel your brand, because that's where you're going to make the real money, right? You're not going to make the real money being a TikTok Shop affiliate, at least not forever, right? You might make some money doing that, but you're not going to get that huge exit that you get when you build a brand. And so I just want you to keep that in mind. It's not a shortcut to wealth, okay? Nothing is, by the way. If anybody's selling you a shortcut to wealth, they're full of crap. But really, what is the key to wealth? Building businesses, building brands, enterprise value in companies, which I'll explain in a little while of what that is. So e-commerce is the best path to wealth for most people nowadays. We're in a golden opportunity. It's not going to be around forever. It's a short time period where you can really capitalize on this and build an insane business if you follow the steps that I'm putting forth in this video. All right. Why should you listen to me? Who am I, right? I mean, I'm just some guy, at least as far as you're concerned. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why you should listen to me. First, I've built and sold 4 brands for life-changing amounts of money. Okay. I've been building brands since 2012. I got into the Amazon game pretty early and I built large businesses, right? I was able to scale multiple brands where I was selling them in the US, in Europe, in retail, even to sports teams, that kind of stuff. And I was able to build these brands and then sell them. Right. So a lot of people maybe build brands, but they don't exit them. You have to understand the exiting process is very difficult too, or can be. But once you do that, man, that's a huge skill too, because now I've learned from the first time and I've done it repeatedly. So I've built and sold 4 e-commerce brands for life-changing amounts of money. I've set myself up and my family up for life in a way that I never dreamed was possible. But I see it now that the possibilities are limitless with this. And that's why I want to show you this stuff. I also co-founded, scaled, and sold as well one of the largest Amazon agencies in the world. The company was called 3BG. And at our peak, we had 340 plus employees around the world. We had a huge office in Bucharest, Romania. Here's a shot of our team during one of our team meetings. I mean, this wasn't even the whole team. We had 340 people. It was an amazing agency. We worked exclusively, for the most part, with one of the biggest aggregators in the world to help them in some of their operational stuff. So I've seen, the ups and downs of that as well. And I learned from the mistakes that the aggregators made too. But yeah, so I had this huge agency and I had 2 partners in that business, still very good friends of mine. But point being, we scaled that agency up to 340 plus employees, and then we sold it, right? So we exited out of that business too. I've also raised over 8 figures in venture capital money for a software as a service company I co-founded called Palm. It's in the treasury management space. And let me tell you, venture capital, different animal, right? And I learned a lot from that as well. I'm not an operator in that business anymore, but I was one of the founders of the company and I still have equity in the business, which is great because I get to focus on what I want to focus on while the team builds a great business. They've got a great vision. And I was really excited and happy to be a part of the launching of that rocket. And it's one of the things I really enjoy and learn through that process is I like helping start businesses. I like being a part of that phase. What I don't really like doing is running businesses in the day-to-day. And, you can get around that by hiring. But yeah, anyway, I digress. I learned a lot from that process. Venture capital is one of those things where it's a very big commitment as far as time goes and energy goes. And it can be very good for the right kind of businesses. But anyway, it can be good for e-commerce. For the most part, it's usually used in software businesses and that kind of thing. But yeah, I learned a lot through that process. And anyway, was able to raise a ton of money for that business. Actually, here's us in Lisbon at one of our early team outings. This is me right here. And this is the founding team of folks, right? These are engineers, the other co-founders and stuff. And yeah, they're going strong. So I'm very excited to see what they build over the next couple of years. I've been in the trenches building e-commerce brands for 12 plus years. All right. I didn't learn from YouTube videos. I didn't learn from, whatever courses and stuff like that. Not to say that that isn't a great way to learn. I think it's an amazing way to learn. I actually wish I would have done that. Probably would have saved me a lot of headache over the years. But my point is that I learned by doing it, right? I did it. I built businesses. I scaled. I failed. I earned a bunch of money. I lost money. Always came out on top in the end. But the point is that I've been doing it, as an operator, as a founder, and in the trenches of brand building for over a decade now. So I can say that I've gained a lot of experience, and I'm happy to share that with you. I've launched countless products, right? I mean, I can't count the number of products that I've launched and helped support in the launch of, and helped support in the scale of, and taking to direct to consumer, taking to retail, et cetera. I mean, just an example here that comes to mind is Angry Orange. With the agency, we brought that product from Amazon only to direct to consumer, and brought it to like $15 million in revenue per month, if I recall correctly, on the direct to consumer site for them. And that was a huge win, right? So that product and brand was only Amazon at the time that we helped manage that through the agency, and we blew it up on direct to consumer. So I've launched a lot of products and I've made a lot of money along the way. The point is I've learned this stuff the hard way, and I did it so that you don't have to, right? I want you to avoid some of the stuff that I had to go through and the stress and the headaches. There's always going to be some when you run a business. It's just the nature of it. But point being, I want to teach you stuff so that you don't have that same, challenge that I had with learning. Now, before I go into the actual step-by-step of this, I think you need to understand that there's a mindset needed for success. And this is very high level, right? So I want to be clear here. You should spend a lot of time on your mental and physical health, just in general anyway, even if you're not an entrepreneur. But I think it's super important if you're stepping into the arena of entrepreneurship that you understand certain things about what mentality is needed for success. And the first thing is you need to have a winner mentality. Okay, you need to have the drive to win. Look at Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. I mean, what a legend, all right? The man's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but he worked harder than pretty much everybody else in the NBA, and the results showed. I mean, look at this guy. This guy's a champion. He has a winner mentality. He understands that if he puts in the work, if he puts in the time, if he works smart, if he practices enough and treats the practice like a game, right? Hustles every single day and has the mentality of like, I want to win. Nothing's going to get in my way. Nothing's going to stop me. You too can be a champion. I mean, literally, that's all it takes, man. You don't need to be the best at everything. You just need to work hard or harder than most. And you need to have the mentality that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win. I am not the smartest person. All right. I'm not that like genius at all. I'm usually in the room when I have team members or partners and stuff. I'm the least, I would say, like intelligent of the group. But one thing I possess that most people don't have is a willingness and a drive and a motivation to win. I am ruthlessly in it to win the game. And I do it ethically, but I love to win. And I don't see obstacles, right? I just see opportunities to overcome challenges. I see opportunities to learn. And I think that's how you have to approach business, right? It's funny, and I see this all the time when I see comments on social media or when someone celebrates something or talks about, I don't know, building a business or whatever it may be on social media. You always see these negative comments. Well, that's because they started with X, or, it must be easy because Y, or it's great when you're rich. Listen, that is loser mentality. All right. I'm sorry to say it like that, but you're never going to be great if you approach life that way. Right. And that's like an envious thing that you need to overcome. And it goes back to this idea of abundance mentality. If I can say one thing that's changed my life more than anything else, it's having an abundance mentality. It's knowing that the possibilities are limitless, internalizing that, right? I think that every day when I wake up, I am grateful. I wake up, I thank God for giving me a day, for giving me a beautiful family, for all the opportunities that I've been given. And I say, opportunity, abundance, infinite abundance, and positive energy. You will attract that if you have that mentality every day. You're going to see opportunities, you're going to be prepared for it. And I think that's really where this becomes a reality, is all about manifesting what you want in life. And there's a lot of science now coming out about this. I won't go too far into it, but you have to have this abundance mentality. That will change your life. And you got to get rid of the scarcity mentality. You got to get rid of the haterness. You got to get rid of the envy and the greed and the jealousy. We all have it. Don't get me wrong. There's levels to this game. You're never going to be the richest unless you're Elon Musk, I guess. But even, he at some point will, right? He'll pass away or he'll fail or, something will happen. There'll be somebody else who does something else better than him. Doesn't matter though, right? Because he has an abundance mentality. He's got a winner mentality. He wants to win. He approaches life as a game. I want you to approach life and business as a game. Games are fun, right? That's kind of like the definition of a game. It's fun. You want to have fun. You want to learn. You want to get better. You want to level up. This is what makes business fun to me is, I don't worry every day about it. I stress about certain things in business and in life, and especially as a father and, the state of the world, all that stuff. But the point is that I'm having fun with life, right? Even when stuff is hard, I look at it as like, okay, I was presented this challenge to overcome it. Thank you for this lesson. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. I remember at one point, I lost $1.5 million in a year. All right. Now, depends on how wealthy you are, right? It could be a lot of money, it could be a little bit of money, whatever. But at the end of the day, I still think $1.5 million is a lot of money. No matter how rich I've become, this is a lot of money. And it hurt at first, but I told myself, what do I learn from this? Thank you for this opportunity to feel this pain, right? And I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about risk management, about what I'm comfortable with, about staying kind of in the things that I know rather than constantly exploring and chasing shiny objects. It was a great learning lesson. And it was great because it was so expensive, right? It's a lot of money. It was a lot of money at the time. And I'm grateful for that, right? Kind of funny to say that, but I can just tell you that most successful people have experience like that where they got really stung bad, but they never forget it and it shapes them and it builds character. You are your greatest asset, all right? I cannot stress this enough, right? You are your greatest asset and you are more than your net worth. You're more than your business. You're more than your, bank account or any of that stuff. You are a beautiful human being. You're alive for what in reality is, a brief glimmer on this earth. And we should be thankful for that time. And I want you to enjoy it. And the way you do that is to recognize that you are your greatest asset. This is my first life. I don't know about you, but I've only lived this one time that I know of. So we're all learning and we're all, experiencing life and making mistakes and stuff like that. But the point is that you are the asset. You can always learn more. You can always make more money. You can always pick back up. You can't ever get the time back, right? And you learn that as time goes on. You start to value time much, much more. But you are your greatest asset. Take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. Now, I drew a picture of Albert Einstein here, or put a picture of him here, because to me, he embodies, approaching serious subjects and big challenges and big questions in life with a sense of humor. And you look at these pictures of him with his tongue sticking out. He's laughing. If you know anything about his life, he's someone who loved life. He enjoyed life, and he solved some of the world's biggest problems, theory of relativity and these kind of things. It's really amazing. He was a genius. But I think not so much his genius, but his approach to life and his mentality is what stands out to me and what I remember him for. And so I want you to have that same approach in life. Now, getting started in building a brand. All right. We're getting into the meat here. The first thing I want you to do, and I actually have an exercise that I've built that helps you identify your niche. But what I want you to do is I want you to identify the place where your skills, your interests, and a market demand exists, right? I'll share a link in the description on the Find Your Niche exercise. It's a step-by-step thing that teaches you kind of how to find your niche and a place to start in building a brand. But there's this concept called ikigai, which is a Japanese kind of philosophical concept that I think embodies this very well, right? And it's a kind of this intersection of what you love, which is your passion and your mission, what the world needs, which is the mission and a vocation, what you can be paid for, which is a vocation and a profession, what you're good at, which is a passion and profession. This spot right here in the middle is the ikigai, okay? And that's what we're looking for, because if you're building a brand, it's got to be something that you enjoy, right? It's got to be in a space that you like, because you have to give it your all and you have to dedicate a lot of time to it. And you're going to be really focused on that space. Not only that, but with some of the things I teach around how to build like content machines and use content, social media, YouTube, et cetera, to generate awareness with your customers, it's got to be something that you like and an interest, genuine interest in, for it to have the biggest impact. Now, you can build a brand, in a space of something that you're not interested in, but at the end of the day, like, you're going to want to do that for 5 years, for 10 years, for a lifetime. So I would say start with what you love. And the way you do that is you actually write down your interests, okay? So you start with your interests. And, an interest, an example could be like fitness, it could be, I don't know, watercolor painting. It could be anything. It could be life hacking. It could be skateboarding. Whatever it is, take the time to write down all of your interests and write down your interests. Don't hold back here. Like, really, take the time to write down everything. And then I want you to think about your skills, okay, within those interests. And an interest, by the way, can also be something that you do for work. So like if you're a project manager, you could do project management. That qualifies as an interest as well. Your vocation currently, or whatever you're good at, basically. Typically, what we're good at are things that we're interested in, right? Because you've had to focus on that thing for a while, and that's how you get good at it. So interests typically are things that you spend the most time on, either in your professional life or your personal life. List them all here. And then I want you to list all the skills that you have within that interest. So, if your interest is fitness, your skill might be, running 10Ks. It might be lifting, right? It might be yoga. It might be, whatever it is. In watercolor, your skill is like painting landscapes, so that kind of stuff. And write all the skills that you have for every interest, because in the skills, we're going to get to the next step here, but there's going to be a lot of skills. You're probably going to realize, oh, man, I actually have a lot of skills. People oftentimes come to me and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what kind of product. What product should I sell? That's the first question a lot of people ask me. And I'm challenging you to think about it a little bit differently. I want you to think about your interests, your skills, your passions, the stuff that you really like and that you're good at. And then from there, we identify a product. But so list the skills for each of these things, right? And so if your interest is skateboarding, maybe your skill is actually, building decks, right? Or building ramps. Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily the thing. It could be skateboarding too. But my point is list all the skills within each of those things. And you can use ChatGPT to help you search here. This is where I think using AI can really be beneficial. I actually have a list of prompts that I'll share with you as well that will give you some guidance and that make it super easy for you to see on ChatGPT, help you with the skills and with the interests and stuff. Because once you have that interests and skills kind of list broken out on a spreadsheet, the next thing you're going to want to do is identify in there, what is the demand or the problem and demand for a solution to that problem within each of those skills. And that's where the market opportunity lies, okay? That's where it's all going to come together, in that you may have an interest and you may have a skill, but if no one cares about it or there's not enough market there, demand for the problem within that skill, it's going to be a hard time selling that product, right? And so if you look here, one of the big sections of Ikigai is what you can be paid for, right? It's not just what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, it's what you can be paid for. And in that intersection is where we're going to identify our niche and our product to start with. Again, this is also a place that you can use ChatGPT, but what I really like to do is list the problems, right, within each of those skills. So like if, running a 10K, right, the problem is, how to build up endurance or something like that, okay? If the problem is the skill is painting landscaping, right, the problem might be, how to paint realistically, okay? And then skateboarding, if you're building ramps, the problem might be, building blueprints for ramps is challenging, right? So like, painting landscaping, the problem is it's hard to paint realistically or learn how to paint realistically. So, can you teach people how to do that, for example? Can you create guides? Can you, sell paints that help? When you think about running 10Ks, like how do you build up endurance? It's difficult to build up endurance to run a 10K. Or, another problem might be I get blisters when I run. Because I do. When I run a lot, I get blisters. This is one of the things that stop me from running long distances. I always get blisters. So, okay, well, I see an immediate potential product there. What if there's a product that you can create or that exists that, helps you stop blisters from running? Okay. And this is when you start to dig into using Amazon and exploding topics. And there's another tool that I use and I teach how to use, which is Helium 10. And it's an Amazon-focused research tool that helps you identify the top search keywords. It helps you see what the competition looks like for each of those keywords. And it helps you identify a space where, okay, there's a big demand for this product and not a lot of competition. That's an obvious place where you can create a product and manufacture it and sell it. And so Helium 10 is a really great tool. There's a lot of resources out there on how to use it. I also show you how to use that in the Skills to Products system. But basically, you're going to find the place where the problems within the skills that you have within interests have a market big enough for you to enter and provide your solution. And when we say provide your solution, I'm talking about a physical product in this case, and not a digital product necessarily. You could do that too, but we're talking specifically about a physical product. So again, if I think about this like running thing, the blisters when running, I mean, that's, I'd have to look up and see what's the keyword that people are primarily searching for like running blister pads or whatever it is. You're going to see how much volume there is for that product. And if people are searching for it, you can sell that product, right? There's a big enough demand. You can be paid for that. Same thing with, blueprints for skateboarding, or even like special, I don't know, maybe there's special tools or something like that for skateboards or for building decks. We talked about that. There's probably some tools, or maybe there's wheels, right? So like, or you have this problem where my wheels always wear out. Okay, well, maybe you can, create a better wheel, right? So I'm not a skateboarder, so I don't know. Maybe that sounds silly. If you are a skateboarder, I apologize. But the point is that in here is going to be the problem, and you're going to leverage that problem and leverage the tools like the search volume on Amazon. Exploding Topics is an amazing tool that helps you see search volume for all kinds of topics and trends. And you're going to use that to identify the opportunity size and whether you should enter that market with your solution. And how do you identify great products? Well, this is the next logical step here from what I was just talking about. And I want you to kind of understand this process because it's super, super important. Product is everything when it comes to e-commerce brands. Marketing is a big part of it, but you have to start with a fundamentally great product that has a demand. Because if you have a great product that no one cares about, how are you going to sell it? There's no market for it, right? If you have a huge demand but a crappy product, no one's going to buy your product. They're going to buy the competitors. You're not going to succeed. So at the core is a great product. And there's a couple ways to identify great products. But before I say great product or show you those ways, I'm going to show you an example of a great product, in my opinion. This is a barber jacket, all right? Now, why is it a great product? Well, aside from the fact that they've built an amazing brand that I love, I bought one of their jackets and it's lasted me forever. It has incredible quality. They have what's called provenance. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. You have to build that over years and years, but they've focused on quality, right? They have a quality product. They're obsessed about that. They have amazing customer service. If you have any problem, you can send the jacket back to them. They'll fix it, right? They have incredible brand equity and history, which you're not going to get overnight, unfortunately, but if you work at it, you can. And they solve a huge problem, okay? They make technical jackets, essentially a rainproof water jacket, stylish. They make it kind of a luxury product that's both useful, that's kind of technical in the sense that, you know, it blocks rain, it's good for hunting. This thing has a hunting pocket in the back. You put your pheasant in there. Talk about old money. But my point is that it's a great product that solves a real problem. And there's a huge market for these type of products. And, you know, this wax jackets and stuff like that, especially more recently, have become extremely popular. They make a great product. Now, how do we identify great products that we can potentially sell? Well, you do a demand and competition analysis. You can use Helium-10 to do that. You ideally are looking for something that has, you know, multiple solutions to multiple problems. So it doesn't just solve one thing, but solves multiple. That makes it easier, especially when it comes to TikTok Shop, to market that product. Gives you your affiliates great kind of resources to make content around. And it taps into an insecurity or a problem. If you can tap into a major insecurity, that's where the gold mine is, all right? Everybody has insecurities, and we can leverage that, right? We're not being evil, okay? We're not manipulating or lying to people, but we are tapping into a psychological thing that exists with humans, which is we have insecurities and we look to solve them, or we have problems and we look to solve them. So for example, here I've got this example of multiple solutions to multiple problems, right? So this is actually from Nello, by the way. They help you unwind and relax. So it's a relaxation ingredient. It helps you sleep better. It helps you with cortisol balance and adrenal health. There's multiple solutions, all right, to multiple problems. And it makes it awesome to write all this in one listing. You're like, man, this is like a wonder drug, basically. Now, the question is, does it work? And, you know, the verdict's still out on that. But point is that they're able to list this stuff and talk about it. When you talk about, you know, insecurities, right? Look at this. Pheromone cologne for men, pheromone cologne perfume for women. This search volume is very high. That's on Amazon. That's extremely high. This is something called a magnet IQ score, which I'll go over. Essentially, it's a ratio of the volume to competition, and it gives you this score. And these are very high, all right? There's a lot of search and not a lot of competition on these products. And what is this insecurity? Finding a mate, right? People are desperate for love. They always have been, but I think even more so now in the digital era, people really, really want to attract a partner, and they're willing to go to the lengths of spraying pheromone perfume on them to attract somebody. Some other insecurities are like, you know, I don't know, acne, right? Weight are difficult, you know, height, smell, insecurities about appearance, like your clothing, right? We all do this. This is part of human nature, is we try to improve our appearance. We want to be attractive. We want to be interesting. We want to be appealing to people. There's also other insecurities that aren't often talked about that might be things like spiritual, right? So like people are longing for spiritual meaning, and you can give them that with guides, with journals, with books. These are physical products that meet these insecurity problems. Another insecurity is fear of the government, right? The No Grid Survival book guide is a great example of a product that's tapped into that insecurity. People are fearful of the government, and that book helps you survive off the grid. So why? Well, people are afraid of the government coming in and, whatever, or power blackouts or war. That book solves that insecurity. And you also need to deliver value with your product. Now, value can come in a number of ways. It can be an improvement on an existing solution. I think that's the best way to deliver value personally. If you can make things a couple percent better, a little bit better, or even incrementally better or a lot better, you've got value. Your product is better than the competition. It's novel, it's interesting, it's an improvement on what's out there. That's a great way to provide value to the customer. You can also create an unheard of solution, right? So maybe people have a problem that they weren't really sure existed, or that there wasn't a solution, for before, and you provide that solution. That's a huge one. It can also be cheaper, right? Value is also delivered in price. I'm not a huge fan of that because it's often a race to the bottom, but you can deliver value by being cheaper, or you can provide more of the same product for the same price. I think these two are less interesting than this. I always teach people to try to improve on what's out there and make things better. And that's the best way to win customers. Remember, a great product is the core of your business. Do not skimp on this part. Okay. When you go to the process of sourcing your product, getting samples, you need to be ruthless about that. Like, do not mess around with that part. It's super important. Don't skimp on it. And I want you to obsess over quality, because the details are what matter. Just remember, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. You need to move the train forward. Now, how do we find suppliers? Well, there's typically two ways, and it's pretty easy, right? But you find suppliers via Alibaba or via Thomasnet. You can also just Google search or reverse engineer your competitors' suppliers using something like Import Yeti or Google. It's very easy to find that stuff. You can just take the competitor product, plug it in there, and oftentimes it'll show you like what factory they get it from. Now, Alibaba is typically China, and Thomasnet is typically US. Okay, so China, or kind of rest of world, I would say mostly China, but like India, Thailand, that kind of stuff. That's where you use Alibaba for mostly. Now, Thomasnet I use primarily for American-based suppliers because the database is good there, and it helps you find kind of US-based manufacturers. Now, depending on your product is going to kind of say where you source your product from, right? So like, for the most part, I would say like food products, supplements, things like cleaning products, etc. That kind of stuff, you can get that in America. Now, you can also get that in China. And I got to say, they're very competitive on price, usually much less than the US. You just have a difference in lead times, and you have to ship the product. Now, with tariffs and stuff like that, you're going to have to do the unit economics. I would say most of the time, China's still cheaper. But like for US-based suppliers, you can source supplements in the US and use Thomasnet for that. For Alibaba, you can find anything, essentially, supplements, food. It can be like plastic products, electronics, that kind of stuff. I would say like plastic products, electronics, that kind of stuff, you're just going to want to have it made in China. Like, they're just better at it. They're more efficient. And the supply chain process is just kind of like amazing when you see it. But that's where you're going to find Alibaba. But you can use Alibaba to get pricing for any product anyway, as a way to kind of determine unit economics. And basically, once you've identified a product that you like, you're going to use these tools to introduce yourself to your suppliers. Okay. You're going to have an online presence already. You need to have a website set up and a branded email. That's super easy to set up. It takes 5 minutes or whatever. But you do that so that you look professional. And then if you can, have a call with them, video chat. Even with the Chinese suppliers, I do that all the time, especially with the US suppliers. I like to talk through, what I'm looking to achieve, what my goals are. I want to understand their manufacturing capabilities. I want to know their history. I want to see the face of the person. It's always better to interact, face to face. You just have a better relationship that way. Then you're going to get pricing, because you need it to determine the viability of a product. You may have a great product, but the unit economics don't work. You can't sell that product. You can't make a profit on it, right? So you want to have great products that also can make you profit, obviously. And then you're going to get samples from the supplier, and you want to ruthlessly evaluate the samples and the supplier communication process. That's another thing that's really important. You want to make sure that you evaluate, how did they reply to you? How fast were they to reply? Are they professional? Are they loosey-goosey, right? You want to whittle down this list. You start with maybe 50 suppliers, and you get down to like 3 to 5, and then you get samples from all of them to test the quality and compare and everything. And then from there, you pick your supplier, and then you have them manufacture. I would say start with a low MOQ if possible, right? Like let's say 2,000 pieces of the products, so that you have enough to launch both on TikTok Shop and on Amazon. You're going to have to give away product to your affiliates, and you're going to have to give away product for the Amazon Vine launch. And for reviews, you're not going to have to give away an insane amount of product or all your product. We want to make money after all, even on the launches. But you should start with an MOQ that's enough to do some damage on marketing, but it's not so much that you're out like tons of money if things don't go amazingly. Now, if you've done the research work in advance and the stuff that I teach in Skills to Products, you're not going to be launching a product that's not going to sell. You're going to already know what's going to do well and what isn't. And so you're going to feel much more comfortable with that, MOQ size for that order. Now, here's an example of unit economics, right? So like this is actually from Helium 10's profit calculator tool inside of the software, right? This is the retail price. This is the size that's going to be used to determine the fulfillment cost and the storage fees. Your unit manufacturing cost is, $7.19 in this occasion. And then you have a freight cost, which is shipping it to your fulfillment center or, FBA or whatever. That's per unit. And you have the fees associated. You can't see all of it, but you zoom down, there's a lot more fees. And this is what you get at the end, right? With this particular product, it's an extremely high margin, by the way. This would be an amazing product if you can make that work. This is your net, your profit that you actually take home in a dollar amount. And then this is the ROI per unit. And I would say that if you can get those kind of numbers, you're way ahead of the game. You'd be killing it. Now, we've got our product. We've sourced it. We've got our order in, and we're starting to get questions from the supplier. Okay, packaging, send me the package file, send me information about the brand. What do you want on the box, on the label, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have a brand, and you have to have great branding. The great thing is that we are in an era right now where getting great branding is super, super easy. It has literally never been easier to use AI to build a great brand. And that's because you have ChatGPT and you have a bunch of tools out there that help you with AI to build logos, to design entire branding, packaging, all that stuff. I mean, I wish I had this stuff when I started my business. I've got 3 here that you can use. One is called Luca, the other is UBrand, and then Logo AI. Between these 3, you're going to be able to very easily put together a brand and branding for your product, both the logo, the color scheme, the packaging, the inserts, all of that stuff that's going to have to go in the product packaging, as well as your website and everything for the landing page so that you look really professional, even if it's just your first product. Now, you can use ChatGPT for this, and I highly suggest you do it, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to have to build out some documents. You're going to want to know what your audience looks like, right? And you want to know what your customer profile is. Okay, let me explain what these 2 things are so it's a little bit clearer for you. The audience is the kind of high-level demographic of who you're selling to, who buys this product, right? So an audience could be like females aged 25 to 35 living in North America, who are, let's say, affluent, that's kind of like your audience. And I have an entire document that you can walk through that actually helps you define your audience with some key questions to help you identify who you're selling to, because marketing and branding has to be relevant for those people. If you are branding a female product in a way that's very masculine, there might be a disconnect there, right? So you need to like think about who you're selling your product to. And I want you to actually build then from that a customer profile. So that's like a person, right? So that's, Michelle, whatever, from, Maryland. She's 28 years old. She works at, Ernst & Young. She earns $150,000 a year. Her main problems are she has issues with, reaction to skincare products that, have XYZ ingredients. She's looking for organic solutions. She's, more affluent and can spend more money on this. She's tried other products. She really likes these other competitive products. Here's what that branding looks like for those products. Now you're getting really in depth into that person. You're going to build a customer profile of like, this is who's going to buy this product, because you're going to then build your brand around that person. And you can have multiple customer profiles, by the way. It doesn't have to just be one person. You should do multiple, actually. But you're going to build those out so that when you go to brand your product and your packaging, it fits what they're looking for and it's appealing to them and it's attractive to them. You should be looking at existing brands for inspiration. And at the same time, don't copy, right? You can zig while others zag. In fact, some of the best branding is like taking a completely different approach from what's out there, and it stands out for that reason. Just make sure it's not too far out where it's like weird to people or whatever. So you need to kind of strike that balance between like your ICP, your ideal customer profile, your competition, what's out there, and then kind of a unique component about what you do differently. And so I would say if you can find that place, you are going to be able to make money. You're going to be able to sell your product. People are going to want to buy your product. Now, you can also hire designers to do your branding. I'm not saying use only AI. If you're just getting started and you don't have a big budget, you can do all this with AI. And I would say use AI anyway to kind of give your designer some feedback, some ideas, some guidelines if you're going to use a designer. There's great tools out there. There's 99 Designs where you can actually have designers bid on your product and all that or on your branding and all that kind of stuff. It's a great place to find designers. There's also FreeUp as a freelance platform to find designers. You can use Upwork. There's tons of places to do this. So I would say, explore what is within your budget. But the point is, you can do it for very low cost nowadays using AI. So I would definitely lean on that. There's another thing that you need to do once you've kind of started down this path, which is build a brand story. Again, this is why the interest and the skills are so important, because you want to have an authentic brand story. Some of the best companies out there have great brand stories. Mary Ruth's Organics, okay, incredible brand story. It's a woman, Mary Ruth, who started an organic supplements brand because she wanted to put, multivitamins into a liquid form that was easier to swallow for her customers. That was part of her like liquids to lunch diet. I think that's what it was called. And if you just go on their website and look at their brand story, it's very personal. It's like, I did this because I encountered this problem and I know the pain of the customer and I want to solve it, right? And there's 10 questions to help you craft your brand story. I would suggest that you go through each of these and answer them so that you have a really compelling brand story. And that's also going to help you when it comes to your branding and what comes on your packaging and the story that you're telling of your product, right? Storytelling is the most powerful sales tool in the world. Anybody who's good at sales knows that. You're not selling features, you're selling the outcome. You're selling this vision that the customer can see. Like, if I use this, this is what I want. This is what I'll look like. This is what I'll feel like. And that's all starting with the brand story. So once you've got branding and you've got your product, you have to launch it. Now, when it comes to launching your product, this is where we're going to leverage TikTok Shop and the affiliate program to really supercharge your launches and do them in an incredibly cost-effective way and achieve scale that typically would take a much longer time and much more spend to achieve. And this is where really the magic is, and why I think, this is just a unique time in e-commerce where you can do this and really build a brand and build scale much quicker than you could do ever before, at least when it comes to the traditional ways of launching products. So if you don't know, TikTok Shop has something called a TikTok Shop affiliate program, which I went over in depth in a previous video. But in essence, at a high level, what it does is it allows creators who are in the TikTok affiliate program to create content called shoppable videos or TikTok live videos, which feature products. And when someone buys a product within TikTok Shop from that video, the creator gets a commission on that sale. And you as the brand can set the commission for the creator, which gives you a lot of flexibility to be aggressive with launches to give them a really nice commission. But the amazing thing is you do not, as the brand, pay for that marketing until the product is sold, which is just basically mind-blowing. I mean, that's like never existed before. You know, you do need to give some product to them generally in the beginning for free. You give out the products to the affiliates, you know, but you're getting that product at cost and you're giving it to them at cost. You can also allow them to be reimbursed for purchasing the product at a later time after they've created content. So there's a lot of options for you as the brand owner, but basically TikTok Shop has created this social marketplace, this social shopping experience where creators create content about products that they can, you know, if really good at it, they can make the videos go viral and they can get a lot of views and get a lot of conversions on that product. And that drives a ton of sales for you as the brand owner, which then you pay out a commission to the creator after that sale has already taken place. So it's really incredible. And the best part about it is when products do well on TikTok Shop, you get this incredible spillover traffic on Amazon, which Amazon loves and rewards. It's called branded search. So it's in essence when somebody searches from, you know, something they've seen on TikTok Shop or whatever, your brand name in Amazon plus the product, and then they convert into a sale because maybe they're not comfortable to buy on TikTok Shop. It's pretty new, so not everybody is, you know, used to that, but they will go on Amazon and buy your product there on Amazon. So you should be launching your product concurrently at the same time as TikTok Shop or shortly after. The way that I teach it is to do both at the same time because you want that spillover traffic. You want to capture all those sales on Amazon, which is going to drive up your rank like crazy. And you used to have to spend a lot of money to get that rank, right? You used to have to spend a ton of money on pay-per-click ads. We used to have to give a lot of products out for free to get, you know, rank, to get reviews. Basically, it used to be a pay-to-play game, and this has completely flipped the paradigm on its head where small brands can drive a ton of sales on Amazon if they do well on TikTok Shop. And that's called the halo effect, okay? So what that means is, again, people see your content or your creator's content on TikTok Shop, they like the product, they go on Amazon, they search for your product, and they buy the product on Amazon. And again, Amazon loves that. They spend a ton of money to get people onto Amazon.com to get external traffic. So you're basically giving them that for free. And on top of that, they're converting at a higher conversion rate than if someone's just searching for a random product because they're looking for your specific product. And you just get this amazing organic rank effect. I showed you some products earlier with the Nello brand as an example, but here's another one. This is Primal Queen. And again, the thing that stands out to me here is like, this is not that many reviews that they have here, right? They have something like, what, 953 reviews only, which is totally crazy when you think about the fact that they are doing $700,000 in sales a month just on that one product, all right? One product is doing over 8 million in revenue in a year. And this is a new product too. It hasn't been out that long. And that's all because of TikTok Shop. As you see here, they've even advertised that viral on TikTok. So the reason why this is crushing it on Amazon is because of TikTok Shop. People are coming and buying that product. They're selling 10,000 of them a month at $53 a unit on Amazon. That doesn't even include the TikTok Shop sales. So, I mean, when you add that up together, this is an 8-figure brand very, very easily. And this is a brand that people are going to want to buy, right? You're going to have strategic buyers interested in this product. You have private equity interested in this product. This is a brand that you can sell for many, many millions of dollars, possibly even over $10 million. I don't know what their profit is, but at this price point, I would imagine it's quite high. Their profit margin is probably really, really good. And this is the kind of secret sauce here, right? This is what I'm showing you how to do. This is what you need to take advantage of. You've got this paradigm shift where it went from paying to play, paying influencers a ton of money to launch your product, not really knowing if it was going to do well or not, you know, trying to get reviews, trying to get all that stuff, to giving a few of the product away on TikTok Shop to your affiliates, driving a ton of sales on TikTok Shop, and then all of that traffic spilling over into Amazon. And you get this incredible halo effect that just juices this product sales like you wouldn't even believe. And yeah, this is this thing you do, this rinse and repeat. This is how you launch products now. There's also other things that you should be doing, taking advantage of kind of some new ways of marketing your product. Some of it is traditional, some of it is new. For example, using faceless YouTube channels to create meaningful content that discusses the problems that you're solving with your product. So for example, if you're selling an organic skincare product, you could make a faceless YouTube channel, or you could put your face on it. It's up to you what you want to do, but you could talk about, the stuff that's in, traditional cosmetics, how it's bad for you. You can discuss how certain things, have a harmful effect on your body. And then in the, description, you can provide them with the solution. You give them a link to your product on Amazon and on TikTok Shop so that the people who are watching that go, oh man, I resonate with this, right? I understand this. I don't like putting this stuff on my body. I need an alternative. Well, it's right there in front of them, right? So there's the link to the product. So you can do this with a lot of different types of things. And I've seen really amazing faceless YouTube content blow up. So not only can you make money off your product, but some of these faceless YouTube channels make a ton of money on ad revenue also. There was one creator who was doing $150,000, $200,000 in revenue a month on YouTube just from the ad revenue. But then they launched a skincare brand that's doing like 10 million in sales on Amazon, and it just kind of all connected together. So that's an amazing way to, build presence for your brand, to create a launch list. You can use x.com, which is very easy now to build, following there, engaging with, again, who is your ideal customer profile, who is your audience. If you've defined those things, it should be pretty easy to find them. They might be on Instagram, they might have Facebook groups. You can scrape data. That's a little bit gray hat, but the truth is you can do that. You can pull information. And what you want to do when you go to launch this product is have all of this lined up, have these arsenal of ways to reach your potential customers and to get those initial sales right in the very beginning. Because what Amazon also does is they give you a grace period in the beginning when you launch your product where they send a lot of traffic to you. Okay, this is called the honeymoon phase. And basically what it means is that they want to test your listing. They want to see how well it converts. It's a new product. They want to see do people want to buy this? And so you get a lot of traffic that way early on. And you want to just throw everything at it at the beginning to get that rank. And then you're going to get reviews using the Vine program, right? So Amazon Vine allows you to get reviews on your listing. There's ways to kind of meaningfully hack that too. Let's say you have multiple variations of a product. I think you can get 20 or 30, if I recall where it's at right now, but around that amount of reviews from Vine reviewers per ASIN. So if you have one product, let's say for this Primal Queen, you wanted to launch this. Well, if I was launching this product, I'd have, one size of the Primal Queen, the standard one, and then I'd have, a 2-pack maybe that's packaged, and that's a separate ASIN, right? And then you'd have a smaller one, which is another ASIN. You don't need to keep making those products in the beginning. You just want to have the separate SKU or the separate ASIN so you can get 20 reviews on this one, 20 reviews on this one, 20 reviews on this one, so on, so on, so on. When you add it up, you get 100 reviews. And because your product is great, right? You're focusing on making a great product, you're going to get good reviews. So you'll end up with a base at which to build reviews, and that's going to help your conversions. But the main thing is you're leveraging the affiliate program, all right? You're having creators do shoppable videos for you. You're learning how to do it yourself. You can do it for your own products, right? That's why if you learn how to create viral videos, I think it's an incredible skill that can benefit anybody because you can launch your own brand that way. You can make your own videos. You don't even need to show your face. You do need to show the product, but you don't need to show your face. And then all of that stuff combined together creates this incredible launch. And you're still going to use the same other strategies, right? You're still going to use Amazon PPC, right? You're still going to use things like the different social platforms out there to help you get sales and stuff like that. So, there's a couple of them, but joinbrands.com is one of them, right? Where you're going to seed them with product and, you have them create content for you, and if they feel inclined, they can leave a review. We're not forcing the reviews, and we're not asking anybody to leave 5-star reviews. All that stuff is against Amazon terms of service. Do not do that, because your product will get banned and all that work will be worthless. But you can, do things to try to encourage getting reviews and ask for authentic reviews. And joinbrands.com is a great tool website where you can, reach out with influencers and get the content that you need to, create these affiliate videos, to create videos for your listings too. But basically, you really want to leverage this TikTok Shop affiliate program, because that is really what's going to drive a ton of the sales. I know people who are very, very large sellers who are constantly launching new products on TikTok Shop, and they don't even really care about the margin on TikTok Shop. I'm not saying do this necessarily. I mean, they're kind of doing what's called like a loss leading strategy, but if you can still make a profit on your launches. But my point is that I know people who are launching products on TikTok Shop that will say, like, they'll be at break even on TikTok Shop, but they get all that traffic over to Amazon, right? But that leads to traffic on Amazon, and they're going to get all their margin on Amazon, right? And so it's okay for them to break even on TikTok Shop, because you get so much traffic, you get so much branded search that Amazon rewards, and then you get this organic rank on Amazon, you get the reviews on Amazon, and it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling machine and flywheel of sales. And it's all kind of based on this leveraging of the TikTok Shop affiliate program. There's ways to reach out to the affiliates. In my Skills to Products system, I show you ways to stand out from the crowd, because, some of these affiliates are making a lot of money, right? So why would they work with you? So you always got to think about, what am I doing for them, right? So maybe it's a better affiliate commission. Maybe you put them on retainer. You can pay extra, right, if you want to secure influencers for a monthly retainer, that kind of stuff. But it's kind of about how do you capture their attention when you reach out to them. Right now, as of this video, TikTok Shop gives you 1,000 outreach opportunities. And that means that either whether they reply or not, that's all you get every month. And so you need to take full advantage of this. I wouldn't say, blindly message people. You want to find people in the niche of your product. You want to speak from a place of passion and of interest. Again, going back to why you're focusing on stuff that you like, because you want to be able to reach them and be authentic and be, honest and be appealing to people who really genuinely have this problem, and then you're providing this solution for them. So that's, again, another reason why being authentic with all this stuff and focusing in areas of interest are really, really important. And you're going to leverage that to launch your product, and you can just rinse and repeat this process. Again, the amazing thing about the TikTok Shop content is that if it goes viral, it keeps creating sales for you, right? It keeps working. Eventually, it may lose steam a little bit over months, but it's like a piece of real estate that keeps generating sales for you month after month after month. And it's really incredible. And, we're in a unique time where TikTok is throwing everything at this. I mean, they incentivize brand owners so much with different kind of incentives, different ways to market your product. You can use TikTok Shop ads as well, which you should be doing. You can, run ads on content that's already done well to boost it even more. There's all kind of promotions, coupons, all that stuff. They're offering a lot of that stuff, and sometimes you don't even have to pay for it. TikTok Shop for a while was paying the difference between the coupon cost and the actual price of the product. So if your product is normally $45 and you put a $10 coupon in it, you sell it for $35. For a while, TikTok Shop was just paying you out the $45, right? It was the full amount. So you got a basically free coupon that you didn't have to pay for that increased conversions. And that's because TikTok Shop wants to win market share. They're competing with Amazon, right? But we're playing on every field. That's why we're doing this in a way where we're capitalizing off of everything. And by the way, on top of that, you're also going to have your Shopify site set up, your own website, which is going to be optimized, and you're going to capture customer emails, because with those emails, you can remarket to them, you can retarget customers. You want to build this loyal fan base of customers that eventually you want to own that data, right? That's the only kind of downside about selling on Amazon and on TikTok Shop, is you really don't own that customer data, but there's ways around that. And regardless, you're still getting a ton of sales, and you're getting a ton of traffic and stuff to your listings early on in a way that you could never have done it before. This right here is just an example of, like, if I'm, a creator, I can go to this product. It's like a soursop product, this one in particular, but you can see, right, how much you earn. All right, I earn $10 per sale. You can post the brand owner wants you to post 3 shoppable videos and generate X amount of views, and then you can get like rewards. You can also request a free sample here, and they'll reach out to you and they'll send you the product for free to make videos on. You create shoppable videos. You can actually contact the seller. So basically, this is the view from the affiliate side where I want to be selling this product. I want to be creating content that sells this product because I'm going to make a ton of money, right? Potentially, if I do this well. If I earn $10 per sale and I sell, 1,000 of them a month, right? Like, that's $10,000. And that video keeps producing sales. So they're highly incentivized to keep doing that. And that's how we launch in the new e-commerce paradigm. This is totally, totally unprecedented. If you don't take advantage of this, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is easier than it's ever been before. And again, it's not going to last forever. So use this to build a brand like Primal Queen or like Nello, where they're doing $10 million in sales like in a year. Okay, tell me how you're going to achieve $10 million in sales a year any other way. This is the way. This is how you do it. Now, when we're up and selling, we need to know some things about our business, and we need to know some metrics. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time in here, but you need to know this stuff. And I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough because this, in the beginning for me, was a little bit confusing. I don't have an accounting background. I don't have like experience, at least when I launched my first brand, on how to, track stuff. But you want to have a tracking tool. I really like Triple Whale. I think they're the best one because it integrates with all the different sales channels and you get like an overarching view of everything. You can also track your ad spend and a bunch of other stuff in there. So I highly recommend Triple Whale. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video as well. Not only that, but there's also, Amazon specific sales tools. There's like, there's a bunch of them. I'll put the links to those, but I would just suggest using Triple Whale because then you can track, your Amazon sales, your TikTok shop sales, your Shopify, if you are getting sales on your website. You want it all in there so you can see an overall view. And the big thing is you want to track all the stuff about your business so that you can understand what to improve on, right? You want to measure everything. You want to monitor everything. And this is the lifeblood of your business, is going to be cash flow, is profit margin. It's going to be your inventory turnover, right? And so before I go into each of those things, I just want you to know that cash flow is extremely important in any business, but in particular in e-commerce businesses. And that is because e-commerce is a cash intensive business, all right? A lot of people don't know that, but I'm telling you right now, it is. Well, what does that mean if you don't know what that means? It means you need a lot of cash to run an e-commerce business. Why? Because you need to buy inventory. You need to buy the inventory before you can sell it. And usually inventory and marketing are your biggest expenses, at least in the beginning. So it's cash intensive. That's why I said earlier on in the video, when people come to me and they say, well, I need to make $10,000 a month quick, right? That's a little bit counterintuitive to a business that's cash intensive, right? Now, that being said, if you do it correctly, you can have positive cash flow, okay? And the way you achieve that is a couple ways. One is, first, you have to drive revenue quickly and you need to do it profitably. And the way you do that is you have something called a cash conversion cycle. And what that is essentially how quickly does your cash go from like when you spend on the product to coming back into your bank account so that you can reinvest it. And you want to have a good cash conversion cycle. And one of the ways you can achieve that is by negotiating terms with your suppliers. Now, in the beginning, you're probably not going to be able to do that because you don't have a relationship with them, right? You've never done business with your suppliers. Why would they trust you to give you product without selling or without seeing any money? Typically, it's 30% down, 70% on completion of the product. So if you're paying 30% in the beginning, you're already out 30% of the cash. Then let's say it takes a month to complete that product manufacturing. Then you pay them the rest, the 70%, right? So you're already a month in with 100% cash out, whatever the purchase price of that, batch of goods is. Then you need to ship it to yourself. That may take, depending on where you're shipping it from, maybe it's 2 weeks if it's in the US, maybe it's 45 days if it's from China by sea. So, anywhere from 15 to 45 days. Then it needs to check into the warehouse. That's another 2 weeks, right? So then you can finally sell it. And you're not going to sell it all on the first day. You're going to take time to sell it. Maybe it takes 30 to 45 days to sell through that inventory. Well, what happens in the meantime? You got to buy more inventory. If the product's selling well, maybe 2 weeks into that 30 days, you have to buy more inventory. And so then you repeat the process. Then you got another 30% down, 70 on delivery, and so on and so on. So as you can see, the more you grow and the better you do, you actually require more cash. And so it's kind of this conundrum that you have where you need to have a way to turn that capital into an ROI for yourself and do it quickly. And so the ways that you do that are, you negotiate terms with suppliers, right? Maybe you, after a couple of orders, you say to your supplier, I'd like to pay you 100% after completion. Right? That way you don't pay anything until they've completed the product. Or let's say you do 30% down and 70%, on receipt of the goods. Like, there's a lot of ways to do it, but you can be creative in how you negotiate things so that you improve this cash conversion cycle. Another thing that you can do after a while is you can actually get, a line of credit from suppliers. All right. You can get lines of credit from your credit card company. I actually teach in the Skills to Product system how you can get like up to $200,000 in 0% interest credit cards for 12 or 18 months. So that gives you an incredible buffer. Let's say you have 18 months, and you have 200K, right? Then you can really invest in your product and you can scale it, and you don't have to pay back that money after 18 months. That gives you plenty of time to build up cash reserves, to take that profit, reinvest it into the brand, reinvest it into the products, acquire more goods, build the relationship with your suppliers. After that time period, then you can get terms from your suppliers, you can get a line of credit from your suppliers. Basically, that's how you fuel your business. And so this is a great way to do that, is that 0% interest cards, right? And you don't need a lot to do it. You don't even need a business, really. You can do it on your personal, but I advise doing it under your business. But yeah, there's a whole process on how to get that amount of credit. And I highly recommend doing that if you don't have the cash flow to start with to grow this kind of business, because it is an investment. But again, it's going to pay off massively. After a little while, once you get things going, you're able to then pull some cash out, right? Pull cash out little by little. Then you start paying yourself. You start paying employees, start to hire, outsource, grow, scale, launch more products. That's when it gets really, really fun and really exciting. But don't expect after the first month to pull out $20,000 in cash unless you're like one of the lucky few who are somehow able to do that. Or you can also do products that are print on demand. That's one also way to generate cash flow. And print on demand basically means that you print or make the product after a sale, right? So there's print on demand books, there's things like mugs, shirts, that kind of stuff. That's a great way to get started and get your feet wet. If you're not really ready to fully dive into building a brand. You can build a brand this way, by the way, but I'm just saying that it's a little bit different than building a brand and buying inventory and stuff like that. But t-shirts are a great way to get started, to learn TikTok Shop, and you can set it up through different sites like Printify and other ones where basically they connect your TikTok Shop account to their account. You create the content around the product, right? You might need to print one or two of the shirts, or you can even use AI to create videos where it looks like someone's wearing it or whatever, or images where they're wearing the product, and you start to create the content and generate sales. And what happens is when the sale comes in, right, then it goes to Printify. They create the product and fulfill it. And then you pay. Actually, you pay here, but you've already received the money from the sale. So you pay, then they create, and then you collect the difference, which is the profit, all right? Which is your profit. And the profit on this is not going to be as high. Your margin's not going to be as high, but you're leveraging this system where, you don't have to pay for the good until it's made. And so instead of having a higher profit margin by buying in bulk, you're taking a lower profit margin, but you're actually receiving, this difference, and you're getting the product after you've made the sale. So it's less risky, it's less upfront capital required. And you can do this with books, you can do it with shirts. I think that's a great way to get started. Journals, things like that. There's a whole process on how to do that, which I also show in the Skills to Product system for people maybe who don't have a ton of upfront capital, but who want to get started selling on TikTok Shop and Amazon. You can do print on demand. You just need to keep in mind the shipping times and stuff like that, because it can ding your account if if you miss some of the windows. So it's a little bit iffy long run, but it's a great way to get started and help you build up cash reserves so that you can then invest in your brand when it comes time to do that, right? Now, at a high level, there's kind of a couple things you want to be aware of, right? There's your P&L, there's your balance sheet, okay, which is also pretty critical. And then there's your cash flow. Now, there's a lot more to it, but this is the stuff that really matters, and you got to dig into all these numbers every month, every day, every week. I mean, you literally keep tabs on this because this is the key to your business. But the P&L is essentially your profit and loss statement. All right. And this just looks like, you have your top line revenue, right, at the top, and then you have like different expenses. You have your costs of goods sold, you have your marketing, you have your employees or whatever, your software, etc. So let's say you've got 100K in revenue, your cost of goods sold was 30K, your marketing was 5K, your employees are 5K, right, 70, and then you've walked away with 60K in profit off 100K revenue. That's a 60% profit margin, net profit margin. Okay, net is at the end, what you actually keep at the end, not your gross. Net profit margin is different from gross profit margin, so it's super important to know the differences in those two. But the point is that there are ways that you calculate cost of goods sold, which is a little bit different if you're not familiar with a products business than kind of other businesses. And so what I was explaining to somebody recently is when you buy product, right, if I have $100,000 to invest, for example, my pen here keeps missing out. If you have $100,000 to start, right, let's say you got 100K, and your product to manufacture it, get it landed in the warehouse, all that stuff, it's you call your landed cost. What does it cost to get it and start to sell it? Let's say that's 30K. All right. This is not an expense yet. So you can't deduct that 30K as an expense until it's sold. And then only the manufacturing amount is deducted. That's why it's called cost of goods sold. So that's right there, that 30K. Then it comes off, but it only happens after the product is sold, and it's not all in bulk. It's like every month, whatever your cost of goods sold is, that then comes off of the top line. What happens is when you buy inventory, right, your balance sheet changes. So you go from initially, let's say you have 100K cash, then it goes, to 70K cash, 30K inventory, right? And then obviously the rest of the stuff on your balance sheet, like your equity, founder investment, et cetera. That's how it works. And every month you're going to readjust this based on what your cash position is, what your inventory is, the value of that. And then you start to deduct these expenses off of your profit and loss statement. For cash flow, this is what cash is left at the end of the month or whatever period you're tracking, right? It's your cash on hand. And that's something you should be tracking, I would say, like weekly and monthly. And I want to know, for me personally, I want to know what my daily cash position is. That might be a little bit excessive for some, but for me, I want to know that because I want to constantly be thinking about where can I spend that money, right? I'm not a person that wants to hoard the cash. We're building a business here. We want to spend that money. We want to invest that money, not spend it on frivolous stuff, not, supercars and watches yet. You'll get there, but on new product, new marketing, hiring, right? You want to leverage the cash that you have to scale your business, and don't be afraid to spend to grow. I think it's an important part of the mentality of building a business is, cash matters, but only in the fact that, you can use that to grow your business, to generate more revenue, more profit, to expand operations, like whatever it is. That's why I want to know my daily cash position. It's not to sit there like, oh yeah, I have this much money in the bank. No, I want to go, all right, I got 100K in the bank, right? How do I think about that on a 3-month period, right? How do I make sure that I have, enough for operations? I've got a cash buffer in case something happens. I've got, 50K. I want to invest in a new product, right? I want to hire somebody at 30K, whatever it is. Like, this is what you're aiming for, is scale. And you do that by increasing your cash balance and then investing it wisely. And that's basically, at a high level, what matters when it comes to the metrics on your business. There's a lot of other stuff too, right, that you're going to track as a physical product business that is not in these big three, but they're a part of them, especially when it comes to the balance sheet, is going to be things like, your inventory on hand, right? And then your inventory value. You want to know your cash conversion cycle, right? This stuff's super important so that you can improve it. And you want to know, like, inventory levels. This is a whole other beast, is operations on a company, an e-commerce company, which I also showed in Skills to Product System how to do this, right? You need to track, your units sold per day, per week, per month. You want to know seasonality. You want to plan for reorders. You don't want to run out of stock, and you don't want to overstock. So it's like a fine balance of keeping the right amount of inventory in stock at any given time, so that you're not overinvested on stuff and then you don't have cash, or that you're not underinvested so that you stock out and you run out of inventory, because that's also really bad. You're not making money then, and you're losing rank on Amazon when you stock out for too long. So inventory management is its whole other beast, and it's super important, but like, this is a big part of running an e-commerce business. Running an e-commerce business is going to be the inventory management component, and there's experts in it. There's software you can use to help you. I've always just used a spreadsheet, right? I've built formulas and stuff. I think simple is better with that kind of thing. I've tried software and all that stuff. I'm talking about like lots of inventory, all right? Like hundreds of products, millions of dollars in inventory, that kind of stuff. I just find the spreadsheets easier for me, and I hired somebody to manage it, and she did an amazing job for me for many, many years. And just that to me is the best, because you get a feel for the business too when you see all that stuff. So once you've done all of that, you're going to grow and scale your business. You're going to outsource operations. Like I said, you're going to hire an inventory management person. You're going to hire a customer service person. You're going to hire maybe a general manager. I think a customer service person is one of the first hires, and then a general manager I really like, because it helps you with your day-to-day operations. You as the CEO have a really important job. And this is from Harvard Business School study that interviewed heads of Procter & Gamble, the big company. And they talked about a couple key things that the CEO thinks about and their job, right? You are the ultimate responsible party for your business. No one else is coming to save you if you're the CEO. You're the owner. It's your business. So you're in charge, right? That's the beauty of responsibility, and also a bit of the downside. There's nowhere to blame, which I love. I like accountability. I think that's what makes leaders, but just know that. There's a couple things that they talk about, right? So they're saying a CEO's job is to define the meaningful outside. I know that sounds like weird corporate lingo, but basically this means emphasizing what's outside of the company. In P&G's case, the consumer is boss, right? And I think that should be every business's core. The consumer is what matters. They're the person buying your product. Like, they're the ones who matter, right? And you want to try to also think about other parties involved in your business. So in their case, they're talking about like retail customers, suppliers, distributors, 3PLs, like all that kind of stuff. That's the meaningful outside. And you have to define it. Segment those things out and manage those relationships and focus on improving them constantly. Another thing that they're saying is to define what business you are in or not. And that means focusing on your core, right? This is, again, why having interest and passion is so important, because at the end of the day, that's your core, right? That's what business you're in. You're in that business, and you need to know what that is. You need to focus on it. Don't try to chase shiny objects and launch a bunch of stuff that's not in your core business. There's so many businesses that have tried to do that over the years, and they end up failing, or they end up spinning out and spending a ton of money chasing stuff that maybe is hot or trendy. Define what business you're in. It's super important. You also have to balance the present and the future, right? So you want to be focusing on realistic growth targets and be flexible, be open-minded, be knowledgeable about what's happening right now, but also have a vision for the future and, focus on that stuff too. And it's a balance, right? You have to be realistic and you also have to be optimistic. So I find that that's really important when you're building a business. And then, of course, I think personally this should have been first, but whatever, that's their business. Shaping values and standards. I cannot state this more enthusiastically or more seriously. The values and principles are so important to your business. You have to define them. They are your core. They're your rock, all right? If you stray from them, you're going to have problems. When problems come up, you need to be able to go back to your principles and your values as a business and reflect and use that to make tough decisions when things happen. Maybe there's a scenario where there's an option A where you can shortcut something and make more money, or option B is sticking with your principles of valuing quality and integrity. You got to stick with your principles. In the long run, that's what matters. And I also say that you should define your principles and values as a person. Take the time to do that, because if you don't have your principles and values defined, who are you? Who are you as a person? What matters to you? Where's your integrity? I'm not saying you don't have any, but if you can't define it and tell me, I think that's a core part of what makes a great person, a great leader, just what helps with your relationships, with your personal development. All that stuff is super dependent on your core values as a person. And I think defining those is really, really important as well. And again, this all comes down to this idea of, as you grow and scale, you need to be able to explain this to people. New hires want to know, what are our principles? As the business grows, one thing I've learned, both the hard way and, always the hard way, basically, is that as you scale and hire people, it becomes a lot harder to define the culture yourself, right? The people take on the culture. The people that you bring in are going to shape the culture. They're going to shape the principles. That's why it's important to have a fundamental basis for them to start with. And that's also important when it comes to hiring, because you need to make the right decisions when it comes to hiring. And hiring on principle, I think, is way more important than hiring on skill. If you have somebody who can do something really well, but they're unethical or they're dishonest or whatever, you really want that person in your company? They may do well in the beginning, but you already know it's going to be a problem in the long run. I'll take the person that has principles and ethics and values that match our company core values, who maybe is not, an expert in something yet, who can learn it. I'll take that over the person who doesn't have a cultural fit. And ideally, you should be aiming for people that match both. And that's why this concept of hire slow, fire fast is really, really important. This is just a key thing here that's kind of a mantra within software as a service businesses, but I would say it applies across every business, right? To hire slow and fire fast, you start by being absurdly selective in who you hire, okay? Be ruthlessly selective. They must match your needs. They must match your principles and values as a company. You want to see who is a natural fit. You don't want to force the part. I've tried that and it always messes up. It always ends badly. Not only for you, the company, but for the employee, right? You want the employee to have a great experience. We're here building long-term businesses. We want people who are happy to come into work, who are willing to do the work. We want the ones who are going to work hard for us, believe in the vision, believe in the principles, that are here for the long haul to help you to go from the beginning all the way to the exit of the business. And they're going to get a nice payout at the end if you do it right. The people that I hired for my first company, because I was so absurdly selective in who I hired. They stayed with me all the way to the end. And then I took those people to the agency with me. They all got nice bonuses. And then on top of that, when I sold that business, they went with the buyer as well. And they stayed with the company there too. And, this is what, when you talk about like, hire slow, firing fast, loyalty is built that way. And you build loyalty by doing what's right. You build loyalty by being fair, by giving people an opportunity to shine and grow and to prove themselves. And you let them, mature within the role. But it starts by getting the right people in there. If you don't get the right people in there, it makes the rest of that very hard. And that's why it's super important to hire slow and fire fast. I also say don't give away equity yet. Right? There's kind of this thing that sometimes people want to give away a percentage of the business to get somebody on board. They better be really, really worth it. I mean, I'm not saying never, but I am saying never. This is different for a software as a service company. If you try to get an engineer who's like a rock star, they're going to expect equity, right? Tech world is a little bit different, but like when it comes to things like Amazon businesses, e-commerce businesses, brand building, stuff like that, I wouldn't be giving them equity yet. You can pay for that, and equity is always more expensive than you think. All right, it seems cheap in the beginning, but it rarely is. So you just know that if you build a huge business, right, maybe they're the right person in the beginning. 3 years into it, they may not be. They may need to be replaced, or they may be the right fit for a smaller company, but now you're a bigger company. If you've given them equity, then they own a portion of the business, and they might not even have to work for that anymore. So just keep that in mind, right? And the way you scale is by launching new products or launching in new marketplaces. When it comes to a pure revenue perspective, that's the way. And I would say scaling within your niche is the easiest thing, right? Your customers are going to tell you what products to launch next. You're going to see it in frequently bought together on Amazon. You'll see it in reviews. You'll see it in customer complaints, all that kind of stuff. They're going to tell you. And so it's going to be pretty easy for you to identify what those things are that you should be launching next. And just through knowing the market, you'll know what's relevant. You can iterate on your product, make that better. You can, launch new versions of your product or whatever. The key thing here is that you should launch new products and or launch in new marketplaces. I'm a little bit weary on the new marketplaces first. I think launching new products first is the better way to go. So you've built up your business, you've scaled it, you've grown year over year, crazy percentages, and now you're thinking about selling the business. You want to exit. You want to get that big windfall of money that happens when you exit out of a company, when you sell your company. You get the liquidity, which is a word that you sometimes hear. That just means you get cash, right? You get money that's real money. It's not a valuation. It's not a potential or whatever. It's money in your bank, and that's called a liquidity event, typically when you sell your business. Now, this is such an exciting part of entrepreneurship and business, because the truth is, for the most part, this is where you make your money, okay? You may, of course, be able to pull money out of the business as you're growing it and scaling it. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it isn't. At a certain level, usually it is the case, because you can take like dividends and stuff like that, or pay yourself a nice salary if the business is generating enough profit. But for the most part, the big money comes when you sell your business. And that's where most e-commerce brand owners make life-changing gains, is when they actually sell their business to either a private equity firm or an aggregator or an individual buyer. It's usually one of those three. Oftentimes it can also go to a strategic. So that's kind of a fourth way of selling it. And what a strategic means is, like, let's say you have a skincare brand, right? Maybe you sell that company to L'Oreal. That's a strategic buyer. They're buying your business strategically to either grow their line or attack or hit a market that they aren't normally getting at with their current line of business. And so those are the buyers typically. And when we talk about selling a business, typically it's a couple key phrases that you hear throughout that process. There's a multiple, there's something like an enterprise value or a market capitalization. Typically it's just called an enterprise value because it's not publicly traded. Usually market cap is for publicly traded companies. You hear things like EBITDA, earnings. You hear some phrases like SDE, TTM, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all very confusing if you don't know what those terms are. And I'm going to try to break it down for you a little bit here so you understand what happens during an exit, at least at a high level. So multiple. A multiple is just what times of either revenue or profit that the company's going to pay for your business. Now, typically for e-commerce businesses below a certain size, you're going to get a multiple of your what's called EBITDA. Now, that can also be called an SDE, and they're not the same thing, all right? So you got to be aware of that. But an EBITDA is just earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Okay, that's kind of your net profit before those things like taxes, depreciation, interest payments that you may have to make on, like a loan or whatever. That gives you a sense of, all right, what's the company actually making when you kind of strip away a lot of that stuff? Either that or you hear the term SDE, which means seller discretionary earnings. And essentially, that's just the net profit of the business before you take your salary. Because if you're acquiring the business, the idea is, you may not take a salary. If you're a strategic buyer, that you're not going to bake the salary into the purchase price. So essentially, like, let's say you have $1 million in profit with your company and you take a $200,000 salary, they're not going to value the business at $800,000 profit. They'll value it at $1 million. So they'll add back your salary, and then they'll give you a multiple on that. Now, typically, those multiples range, anywhere from, if it's like a smaller business, and at the current, of course, rate. Now, that changes depending on the market, but right now, the market is something like this. You'd make 2.5x to, let's say, 4x your SDE or EBITDA, depending on the type of business. And so let's say I make, $1 million in profit, and then I take $200K in salary, like I talked about. The buyer will say, all right, you're going to take $1 million, which is your earnings, your SDE, with the add back of the salary, and we're going to offer you, 2.5x that number. So you're going to get $2.5 million. Wow, man, for most people, that is a lot of money. And that's probably on the low end, to be honest with you, of a lot of these businesses. I mean, my exits were bigger than that, and a lot of people I know have done whopping exits. I mean, 8 figures, 9 figures even for your business. And that's crazy to think about, but it's totally possible if you grow it right. Now, why 2.5x or why 4x? What's in between? How do you determine that? I mean, there's a lot of factors, right? So like, it's a couple of things. Typically, it's like, how concentrated are you, right? So, if you're only on Amazon, for example, or you're only on Shopify, or you're only on TikTok Shop, you're probably going to fetch a lower multiple. If you have multiple sales channels and multiple revenue streams, you're going to get a higher multiple. It depends on your profit margin, right? So people want a high profit margin because that means that there's more money left over to scale the business. You can invest more money. There's just more profit. More profit margin is always better. So, the business that has a 15% profit margin is going to get a much lower multiple than a business that gets, a 30% profit margin at the end of the day. And that's net profit margin, by the way, not gross. So that may be one of the factors, and usually is a factor in how they value your business. It can also be the growth rate, right? So the growth rate, like, if your business is declining, not great. You want to be selling your business when it's on the up. You got to think from the buyer's perspective, why would they want to buy a business that's not doing well or that's declining? You want the business that's growing. By the way, you also want to buy the business that has more opportunity. You don't want to buy the business that's tapped out, that's done everything they could. That's also another factor, but you want the business that's growing. Let's say, there's a 50% year-on-year growth rate, or 100% even, depending on the scale of the business. Those are things that are really going to factor into what kind of money you get on the exit of the business. So these are kind of the main things typically. There's also stuff like number of SKUs, right? Like how many products you're actually selling, and depending on the buyer, they may want more SKUs, they may want less. It depends on the niche that you're in. Some businesses are harder to sell than others. So it depends on the niche, of course. And there's some other factors, but those are the main ones. And when you talk about enterprise value, that's this number, right? This is your enterprise value, your EV. So, if someone's willing to pay 4x on $1 million EBITDA, right, then the enterprise value is $4 million. So it's pretty straightforward. It's what's your product or your business, your brand actually worth? That's the value. Now, when companies are publicly traded, you have all that information public, they'll call it a market capitalization, but it's basically, the same thing. But a market cap, well, it's not really the same thing, but it's close to the same thing. A market cap just is like a publicly traded valuation based on the share price and then the total number of shares. So like, some things have, I don't know what Nvidia's current market cap is, but something may have like, a 10 billion market cap or 100 billion market cap, or some companies are pushing on a trillion market cap. That just means that that's the value of the company, and it's dependent on the market. It's dependent on what people are willing to pay for it. It doesn't really necessarily have a constant formula. You hear things like PE and stuff like that, forward looking earnings. All that says is, what's someone willing to pay for X percentage of my business? And that's the market cap. And the same thing here is, this is the enterprise value, is what is someone willing to pay for 100% of my business? Or maybe you sell some of your business, maybe you want to keep growing it. Like, you can build a business where you sell 50%, in this case of this $4 million company, let's say I sell 50% of the business, at 2 million. Now I've gotten liquidity. I've gotten 2 million of liquidity, and I've only given up 50% of my company. Now you give it up a little bit of control here, so maybe you sell 49% if you want to keep running the business or whatever. But that's kind of the idea here, and that's how it works, right? And so, this gives you a sense of some of the terms that we talk about when we're looking at selling businesses. Now, when it comes to the best time to sell a business, this is pretty straightforward. You want to sell your business when it's growing. You want to sell your business when it's really profitable. You want to sell your business at a place where you're going to get the maximum value out of it, right? You're going to get the most money that you can. It's a bit of an art with that, right? But it's some of the things that are kind of to be considered is like, what's your growth rate? What's the scalability of the business? What does the market look like? For a period there in 2020, 2021, like, markets were hot, man. You would get, some of these businesses were getting 5, 6x EBITDA on stuff that, was below 20 million in revenue, which is very unusual just because there was so much demand for it. And that's not necessarily a sign of a healthy market, but that's the case. So you want to look at like all those factors, external factors, internal factors. You also want to think about where you are in your life. If you want to keep running the business, if you don't, if you want to free up your time, do something different, if you want to, buy something meaningful, a house, or you want to retire or whatever, those are all factors that are going to come into play when it comes to selling your business. But the point is, you want to sell it when you get the most money for it, not when it's like doing poorly and you just want to get out. People make that mistake all the time. And then they don't get what they want for the business. They have to maybe take a discounted, enterprise value, and they get less money for it, and it's because they sold at the wrong time. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to this. Now, pitfalls of exiting, oh man, there's many, right? You got to have a good lawyer. If you're depending on the size of the business, you may want to have an M&A, transaction attorney, and an accountant on the ready. You want to work with them through that process. If you're a huge company, you'll probably work with like maybe even one of these banks and stuff like JP Morgan or whatever. It really depends on the size of the business, but you never do this without a lawyer. You never do this without a consulting an accountant, and you want to plan in advance. It takes a long time to sell your business, and there's a lot of stuff that you need to do to get the buyer comfortable to give you that money. So that takes away from running your business, right? That's one of the hardest parts also about raising capital. If you're a venture-backed business, you still have to run the company, and at the same time, you got to raise capital, which in itself is a full-time job. Selling your business is a full-time job, right? It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. It can be stressful, things can go awry. So you just need to be aware of that it can take 6 months to a year to sell your business. So that's why I always say, think about the exit in mind. When you're building something, you want to think about the potential exit. You always want to be thinking about that because you want to plan it properly so you maximize this process as much as possible. Now, what to do with the money? Man, that's up to you, right? Now, I could give you some words of advice. This is not financial advice. I am not an accountant. I am not an advisor. I am not any of those things. I'm not a professional. So this is up to you. It's not financial advice. But what I would say is, if you go to sell your business and you make a lot of money, don't do anything yet, right? Avoid the impulse to buy something, to go out and, splurge, to buy a huge house, to whatever. Now, it depends on the amount of money you make. If you make $50 million, by all means, buy a Porsche. It's going to be such a small amount of the total amount of money that you made. It's not going to make a dent. But what I don't want you going and doing is if you make $1 million buying a $300,000 car and buying Rolexes and buying all this stuff that's not really going to help you in the long run, and then you've just killed a lot of the money that you made that you should be probably reinvesting. For me, my approach is pretty simple. I kind of use this barbell approach, and I've had some success with it over the years. I mean, if you think about a barbell, basically what you have here is once you earn that first bit of money, you don't want to risk that, all right? Not too much anyway. Alex Hormozy said once that it stuck with me is don't risk what you have for something that you want. And something along those lines, I'm paraphrasing. But, not to say don't risk anything because life is full of risks. And to multiply your money, you got to take risks. It's part of being an entrepreneur and an investor. But what he means is, if you make $4 million and that gives you a comfortable life that you can, free up yourself so that you never have to work for anybody ever again. You paid off your house, you paid off debts that you may have, whatever. You don't want to risk $4 million to maybe make $1 million extra. Like, it's just not really worth it. The risk reward ratio is not great. And when I mean risk, I mean big risk, okay? I think it's pretty safe to put your money in the equities market. I'm a big believer and a bettor in America. And yes, there's risk there. Of course, the stock market can go down. But for me, I like to keep a large portion of my risk concentrated in things that are more consistent, steady bets. Things like, SPY, right? The S&P 500. I like to keep a small amount in bonds or treasuries because right now the yields are really good. You're getting 4.5% or whatever on it, whatever the current rate is. I like to keep a little bit of cash on hand at all times. I have invested small portions of money in real estate through syndications. I don't actively manage real estate. I don't want to do that. I don't want that headache. I know a lot of people love that. It's not for me. But I keep most of my money in the S&P, and you can generally bet, barring any major world catastrophe, that the U.S. stock market historically has gone up. Now, there's periods of downtime and all that stuff, and you got to be comfortable with the withdrawals and stuff. But generally, this has worked really well for me. I mean, just over the past year, it's been something like 28% return on my capital, which is phenomenal. I mean, if you have $4 million and you're returning 28% on a year, that's a huge amount of money for most people. I mean, that's, whatever, 800, 900K a year. I wouldn't spend all that, right? There's kind of an idea here that the general retirement concept, at least, is that if you can take like 3% of your initial out per year, and you can adjust that as time goes on, of course. There's a lot of studies around this too, and I won't get into the details of that, but like the idea is if you have 4 million, right, you can comfortably take out 3.5% of that annually, for something like 30 years, right? And most of the time, you're not going to run out of money, like 99% of the time. You can run different scenarios. There's something called a Monte Carlo scenario, which is a bit around like you can use that for retirement calculation. But in general, I would say put most of your earnings into a comfortable, relatively safe investment. And then you got to gamble a little bit, right? You don't have to, right? But I'm just saying there's outsized bets to be made. Maybe you take 2% and you put it in Bitcoin. That way, if you lose that 2%, it's not the end of the world. But if that 2% does what Bitcoin's done for the past couple of years, you're, 150% on that. That's amazing. So that's a good risk reward here. And I would say like, this is kind of this idea of barbell, right? And that's a great way to do it. Now, there's also a lot of other things you can do. You can buy other businesses if you want to get back in the arena. You can be a passive investor. You can do angel investing, VC, private equity. What I will say is this, though. If you're going to go that route and you don't know anything about that type of industry, only risk a little bit. Because the truth is that most of these funds, like private equity, venture capital and stuff, like they're not returning that much. And the people who are investing in them, usually have a lot of money and they're putting a small amount in, or they're, for lack of a better word, they're kind of getting fleeced, right, for the fees, because the fund managers make a percentage on the fees. They get an annual pay no matter what, whether your value goes up or down. Venture capital is super risky. You're betting basically that 1 in 20 companies pulls a Facebook, and then maybe you can get money back out. But if you look at the returns of some of the venture capital over the past 2 years, like the majority of them have returned less than the S&P 500. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, why would you risk that amount of money? And they're not liquid, right? So you can't really like pull money out of it or whatever. So just keep that in mind, right? You know, this is just scratching the surface of what to do with the money. You also got to treat yourself too. You know, I say reward yourself. You know, don't go crazy, but celebrate. You know, maybe go on a trip. Maybe splurge a little bit on a, you know, really expensive dinner, or, you know, buy yourself or your wife or whatever, husband, like something nice. You can buy something for your family. You know, that stuff is really fulfilling because it's a gift and it's meaningful, and you're doing it for someone that you love. And I think that there's a lot of value in that, in rewarding both yourself and the people around you for all the hard work that you put in to get to this finish line. I mean, this is a place where most people never get to, right? Unless they do it smart, unless they follow the playbook, some of the stuff that I'm showing here, you know, you got to take the right, you got to make the right plays. I mean, that's it, you know, get to this finish line and feel the feeling of having that huge amount of money hit your bank account. I will never forget the feeling that I had when I made my first $1 million, and it was the most amazing thing. I couldn't believe it. I kept like refreshing my bank account, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a millionaire, you know? And then looking back, I'm like, you know, it's a lot of money for most people, don't get me wrong, but like that was just the beginning for me, right? And the truth is that $1 million is not what you think it is. And you also got to keep in mind the tax man. Oh gosh, I didn't even touch on that. That's another thing. I mean, this is why you have an accountant and a tax planner and everything when it comes to your exit. You want to think about this because you're going to owe taxes for the most part. Depends on where you live, but if you're in America or most of the world, you're going to have to pay taxes on the sale of your business. And don't mess around with that. You know, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes, you know, be smart about it. Taxes can be argued, good, bad, whatever. You know, there's political discussions around this and also. I'm not even going to go into that. But the point is that you're going to have taxes probably. So you need to plan for that and you need to pay them. And don't mess around with that because, you know, it's just a legal thing that you just want to avoid that problem. It sucks paying taxes, honestly. I mean, I do it gladly because I like to contribute to society. And I'm fortunate to have made a lot of money where, you know, I'm good. But it doesn't feel good. I mean, like no one likes cutting that check or sending that wire, you know, but you do it, right? And you do it and you smile and you move on. And it just says that you made money. I think I look at it that way. Like, yeah, you made money, so you got to pay taxes. And that's just how it goes. Now, you have gotten the blueprint. You've gotten the entire walkthrough on how to build a $20 million brand. I mean, $20 million, maybe you want to build a $50 million brand, maybe $100 million. Who knows? The sky is the limit. Remember, abundance mentality. Anything is possible. Anything is possible with the right skills, with the right focus, dedication, with the right mentality. Anything is possible. This is me. If you didn't know already, you're watching a video of me, but I like this picture because this is a moment in my life where I was really, really happy. Not that I'm not happy now, I am, but I was ecstatic when this picture was taken. I was out celebrating with my wife because I had just made a lot of money in a recent sale of my business. She and I had the day together. You know, the kids were at school and with our nanny, and I had freedom to be with my wife, whom I love and who I'm super grateful for. It's helped me along this path. And I just felt relaxed. I felt relaxed because I was financially free. You know, I had a lot of money from multiple exits. I had the time, the freedom. I had my health. I still do. And it was just a moment in time that I felt really amazing. And things have gotten even better since then. I mean, this was, you know, a while ago, but like, man, I'm happy in this photo and I'm really grateful for these type of moments. And this is why I say document and celebrate the process, because you're going to want to look back on this and you're going to say, I remember that moment. That was amazing. And you're also going to say, wow, it's gotten even better since then. Hopefully, right? Yeah, I hope that's the case. If you keep doing what I'm showing here, it should be the case. And if you're smart about your money, you're going to keep doing better and better, and life is going to get better. But you want to celebrate and remember the wins, because that's what life is all about. Again, it's not about the money in the bank account. It's not about stuff. Don't get me wrong. I like nice things. I love having money. I love the idea of wealth, growing my money, and setting my family up, which I've done. But it's not everything. Your health is your wealth. You are your greatest asset. As I said earlier on in this, you want to take care of yourself and the people around you. And I have a very personal experience with this. My youngest son had a really severe health issue, and he was hospitalized multiple times. We had multiple emergencies. We thought we were going to lose him, at one point. And thankfully, he's better, with the thanks of great medical treatment, with God's help, with my family's help, with all those things, and finances did have a part to play in that, because I was able to travel and get him treatment in places that were, for a lot of people, maybe not accessible. But my point is that, that's what really matters. That's wealth. It's not the money in the bank account. It's the freedom and the love of your family and your health, and the ability to savor this brief moment in time that we have in life. Life is short. Enjoy it and document it along the way. So, how do you get started building a $20 million brand or bigger? Well, I'm here, and I built a program that's just for you. It's called Skills to Products. We have a community of like-minded sellers. We have entrepreneurs. I have some of the best people in the industry helping out, giving feedback, joining on calls every now and again, basically supporting you throughout this process. And you can apply to join Skills to Products. In fact, whether you haven't even launched a product before, whether you don't even have a business idea in mind or a product in mind, you just know that you want to do something big. I'm taking people who are at that level and taking people who already have businesses, like people who are wanting to scale or go to that next level. They can also benefit from joining the Skills to Products program, because I'm teaching all kinds of things, from the basic stuff to high level strategy to every level of the game, basically, on how to conceptualize, scale, grow, and then exit from e-commerce businesses, just like I've done in the past. But you need to act now. All right. There are limited spots. I can't help everybody. I'd love to, but I can't do that. And I want to give a very tailored approach to this. I want to help people who, are really ambitious, who have big visions, and who are ready for it. And so you need to act now, right? So if you want to do this, if you want to learn from me and from my experiences and from all my ups and downs, and, basically learn from my mistakes and my wins, you have to act now. There are limited spots. So if you're interested, I want you to go in the description below and book a call with me to see if it's a good fit. The link to my calendar is in the description. Go through there, book time with me. You can find me in the links below. You can find more information about me in the links below and the stuff that I've done. I'm also constantly posting new content out there and showing, my experience and sharing all that with you. I think this is a lot of value already. I mean, this video is almost 2 hours long, I think, and I'm pretty confident that if you just follow the steps here, you can launch a brand and scale it. But if you really want to learn, the ins and outs and have that kind of, personal attention and approach, try to apply to the Skills to Products program, and we'll see if it's a good fit. I'd love to meet you anyway. I want to talk to anybody who's looking to build brands. I'm so enthusiastic and excited about this. This is the golden era of e-commerce. Do not let it pass you by. This is not going to be like this forever. Take advantage, message me, book a call, and I'll see you out there.